All right, this is going to be recording 641. I'm going to go through some of the pictures. I'm going to try to get through all of them and explain them to you. They're on my website, ChristinaStation918.com. It's towards the top of the page. You'll see the link there right away. Okay, so this was Total Discovery. Okay, so, all right. So I was looking at the most southern point of Texas, which is Brownsville. Okay. And I'm trying to figure out how I got this. I can't remember how I got this here. The Brownsville, Texas to the top of Oklahoma. Okay. If you draw a straight parallel line up. Okay. And then I'm like, there's other southernmost points in the United States of America. So I wonder if these go together. So then I went and found the most southernmost point in Arizona, and with the same line, I copied and pasted it, and it went straight from Arizona. There's a museum there where I started from, and then it goes all the way up through Utah, and then in the bottom corner of Wyoming. So instantly when I saw that, and I'm looking at drawing A, I'm like, this is intentional. So I know there's triangles here. Okay, so I'm looking at where the lines are. I'm looking at where the beginning and end point is. I'm looking at the combinations of the initials of the states. So what I can see instantly here is this is running through the Oklahoma-Texas border, and then it's running up into Kansas. It's running through Oklahoma City. Okay, which is important because that is where Oswego is. Okay, and I decoded another triangle. I'm trying to edit my words here because I was very emotional and very upset when I was figuring out these triangles, because this is like all based around my life. I can go and figure out these triangles and decode, and I can see parts of my childhood in all of them. Okay. So, and I know that I'm dealing with Charles Manson. And then I find out there's actually some, I call them pagarathms because I can't pronounce it. So then I realized, and I decoded tons and tons and tons and tons of triangles. So it's the A2, B2, C2. Okay. So this is actually a secret society. Okay. So anyway, Jean Roberts, leader of Charles Manson, she went underneath them. Okay. Just like she went underneath the Masons. So these triangles are different than the Masons triangles. Okay. So anyway, she went underneath them in order for her to like do this to me my whole life and for me to figure out and find this out. Okay, so I know that she did this, and I know that it wasn't the Pagarathms. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce it. Pagarathium. Pagorathium. I can't say it. So I always say Pagarathms. They don't care. I talk to them. I don't talk to them. They're on. They're like the knowers, like super knowers, and they don't ever say anything, ever. I mean, they really don't. So anyway, I decoded triangles that Jean did around my life when she was stalking me. Okay, this is one set of triangles I'm going to explain to you. When she was stalking me, She was stalking my dad's friend, Terry Cedarholm. She was stalking his son. And she was stalking me in Illinois. And then the other point went over into, I can't remember now if it went over into Florida or Texas. I still have the diagrams unless I have it Tulsa Police Headquarters. Okay, so I'm decoding this all out. And I can see Jean completely stalking the hell out of all of us. And then she's referring to Yale in it, Yale University. And that's how I first got to know Yale University. Because they came on and it was a total nightmare, okay? Because what do you say? I mean, what do you say? And then on top of what they were feeling there, to find out that Jean had done what she did using their name and creating these triangles all over the place and stalking me in plans to sacrifice me and steal my identity and using Yale University's name without them ever even having a chance to ever just sit down and talk to people upon discovery. These might be conversations that Yale has already had. I mean, it's not upon my discovery, but upon, you know, these are probably conversations Yale has already had. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like everything is just like ripped like wide open. And so what do you say? And I'm in tears. I'm freaking out. This is years ago, like 9 years ago. I'm freaking out. I'm like, this bitch is stalking me and my kids. She's stalking my ex-husbands. She is literally controlling my lives. She's even controlling my parents' lives. So, and I'm finding out that she did the World Trade Center attack. I'm finding out that the Middle East got blamed for it. I'm like finding out that she's the one that did it. There were soldiers on with me. And at different points of this time, there were soldiers on that were crying. They said they felt helpless in finding out, just sitting there looking at the scenes back in time and watching her pull a smooth move on George Bush Jr. in the classroom, because all of that was fixed. And all they were looking at as soldiers is their job to protect. And they're realizing that Gene Roberts is the one who did the World Trade Center attack. And they're sitting there watching the footage of him at the school where he's reading the story to the kids. And that's when the towers hit. They were like, it's my job to protect the president. And I feel like they want to kill Gene. They feel like they failed the president. And so I'm crying. They're crying. And then it just continues. It goes on and on and on and on because I keep decoding more and more crime that she has committed. And then she has the audacity to force people into silence. So now you're dealing with 9 years later, more and more military, more and more intelligence, more and more people all over the world knowing that she committed these crimes, and she's running around acting like she's innocent and she's Miss Princess and everybody just needs to go along with her lie game. And then military that knows what's going on sees military that doesn't know what's going on and sees their anger and their rage and their pain. And it's misdirected because Jean has been lying to them. And because she's got hostages, because there's ballistics involved, everything can't be like just openly disclosed. Everything has to be like muted and freaking her Sharon Tate charades, which I wish people would not pay attention to any of her Sharon Tate charades. Her using artificial intelligence on the environment, or her acting out little skits and her little mic drop crap, or controlling people's speech. All of that is distraction. That's all Jean Roberts. She desperately does not want you to know that she did this. So you've got military that is enraged, in anger, and in pain. And then you've got military that is enraged and in anger and in pain. And then you've got military that knows I'm enraged, in anger, and in pain. And Jean's just having the ball of her life. So anyway, Yale University. I love those guys. I really, really do love those guys. I got to know them. So anyway, so they were like, it was in the middle of all of this. And so they were like, what do you say? What do I say? Because you're looking at American history. You're looking at unearthed American history that they didn't even have. Okay. I was told, like with Abraham Lincoln, with the United States Constitution, there was a lot that I decoded that's not even known, that's lost. They said it should be in the Library of Congress. And Jean tried to rip it off and sell it to universities, trying to make a buck, trying to paint herself as she's the one. This is all her. And she is the criminal. I mean, it's the biggest American heist ever. So you're dealing with all of that pain. You're dealing with the 9/11 pain. And then you're seeing your name, your university's name, being thrown all over the place. And she did the same thing to General Electric. And I got to talk to Yale. I got to know Yale. They actually were able to talk to me. And they're like, and I was at this point, I had moved to Texas, and I was working on decoding. I was working on the terror dial. Okay. She's got a gigantic terror dial, and it's an overlay of all different kinds of systems. Okay. All different systems that you can make circular. Okay. And it all overlaps, and everything like decodes out. So I was working on that, and I was working on the calendar. I was working on decoding. I just started learning how to decode parts of the Holy Bible. And so they came on, and they were like, we're here. This is what we want to do. We want to help you work through some of this. We want to help you decode some of this, Christina. We're going to help you see what we can see here. We're going to help you figure out some of these ciphers. Because their way to make it right and addressing at the same time their rage at Jean Jernigan Roberts was to get in and do the work. Jean at that time sat in the back end, all filled with delight, like she was just going to rip it all off. And she literally tried. She tries to rip off my recordings today. She tries to pretend to be me everywhere. And she's got all kinds of people conned into pretending to be me. I don't know what part of this they think is amusing. It's sick. So anyway, so those triangles, the ones that Jean created, okay, she did all of this. Okay, so this is layers of everything over time. So it's historical, and it's layers over on top of it. And so there is no, like I tried to explain in my books, you have to create multiple timelines, and you have to create definitions of at what point in history do you mark this as unknown American history or American history? And at what point do you mark this as modern day terrorism? And it's an overlap. Everything is great, and it's multiple overlaps. And then you have the overlaps of timelines of the Pagarathons, okay? Then you have the Masons. Then you have the NWO. Then you have the Illuminati. And then you have Gene Roberts Manson occult creating ruckus out of everything. Okay, so it's layered timelines. It's none of this is linear. Okay, so Gene's favorite thing to do is point. It's the military. Point. It's the Masons. Point, because she's the one. Every time she does that, she's letting the entire world know that she's committed these crimes. It's not. It is her doing. Before her in 1967, it was her predecessors. And like I said, all that is timelines, okay? You have everybody doing all their thing. And then underneath everything, you have Charles Manson, okay? So it's not just cut and dry anything. And every time she does that, she thinks she's cute. She thinks I just don't understand her. I don't understand anybody who would even talk to Navy Gal 27 or any of her people. She committed stolen valor. She joined the military on purpose to try to destroy this nation. She committed stolen valor. It's even in Stolen Valor, STV. Everything she does, she thinks is hilarious. She thinks she's got some special permission to be above the law when our own president of the United States isn't even above the law. And I know the rest of the United States population feels like me. So she's above the law and everybody else has to follow the law. If you're one of Gene's buddies, you're one of her criminal occult buddies, then, I mean, she doesn't even make them all above the law. It depends on what she can get them to do or not do. I mean, it's insane. So anyway, those triangles where she had mentioned Yale was over between, it was between Louisiana and Loda, Illinois. And then the point went, there's a couple different triangles here that are in this area. I've got triangles decoded all over the United States. And then I realized this works all over the world. She's got triangles everywhere. I started looking for them internationally. I'm like, this is too big. This is too vast. I have a mental telepathy connections at times with people internationally. I'll tell them how to figure this out. And they literally would come on and say, Christina, how do you figure this out? And I would say, this is what you do. And then I got my recordings up and then I explained, this is how you find these triangles. Okay, and the triangles, like I said, are valuable because it's depicting where people are missing, where possessions are missing, where she has things hidden, and she's been doing a lot of stealing. So like I said, you're going to find a lot that was taken from you, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, by knowing how to decode these triangles. They're everywhere. So anyway, so this center line, so I'm going, okay, so this is going 2 states up, okay? So then I'm like, okay, let me take the same line and let me go to the bottom point of Florida, and then it goes right to where? West Virginia. Now, as you guys know, West Virginia is where the FBI call center is, but West Virginia is also where one of our Charles Manson hideouts is, where Charles Manson is from, and that would be Barker Ranch. Okay, so West Virginia means Charles Manson. You know, Jean desperately tries to claim she's FBI. She is not the FBI. She is the leader of Charles Manson. And in the past 60 years, she's tried to muddle that line by trying to worm and weave and con her way into the FBI and convincing them that they're Charles Manson. No, they are not. She's tried to worm and weave her way into the government. The government is not Charles Manson. The FBI is not Charles Manson. The CIA is not Charles Manson. You know who our Charles Manson occult is. You can go back through the recordings. You can learn everything. You can go ask the right questions after getting yourself up to speed everywhere. So, okay. So, anyway, this would be if you were looking at like 50% of the United States. Okay, so one thing you obviously probably already see here, this runs up through the White Mountains. You know, people go missing in the White Mountains. I decoded a lot of triangles here. There are civil rights leaders missing here. Hang on just a second. So there's people missing there. So some of these lines run up right through Winslow. They run right. There's so much decode. I've decoded so much here. It's insane. So Utah, remember Benghazi? See how the line runs right up into Utah? Okay, so the Oklahoma Texas border, this area, this intersecting point, and you're going to see it in the next in one of the next drawings here. But the intersecting point, remember I told you in the previous recordings, there's an entrance there where people are dumping gigantic snakes or snakes underground. So I believe those are entrances probably into the Abajo underneath Oklahoma City, which is Oswego. It may connect over. Smithtown is underneath Amarillo. That's Highway 27. It's underneath Highway 27. Alice in Wonderland is built around it. Okay, and you know that from previous recordings. Okay, so this may connect over into Smithtown. So this intersecting point is very important. Plus, in Kansas, there's another triangle up there, and that all revolves around the Wizard of Oz. Okay, so over in Florida, okay, so what's another common denominator here? The Everglades. What's in the Everglades? Snakes. Remember I told you she was having snakes shipped to the Everglades and she was scenting them? And then she's pushing them out underground all over the place, which means she steals scents, okay? She either creates artificial scents. She's like Jelly Belly with like jelly bean flavors. She's like that with scent. She can create any scent possible. Okay, so she steals scents and then she scents the snake. Okay, so when it smells the scent, it's going to follow the smell. Okay, and some of those snakes go over 80 miles an hour. I tried to outrun them. I know they go over 80 miles an hour. Okay, so and I know the underearth of the United States of America is filled with these snakes. And Gene Roberts has been breeding these snakes since the 60s. Okay, she did a big, gigantic, major snake run, and it was when I was in Dallas, Texas, and an explosion went off, and it was underground, And the explosion, like I told you, was so great. The ground was shaking and it shook for days and weeks. And the waves of the snakes moving underneath was insane. I could literally feel like it felt like water waves. Okay. And they had gases. I was on with General Schwarzkopf at the time, which would be CIA Secret Service. I used to call him NASA because that's what he is, National Security Agency. I nicknamed him and called him NASA. I always called him NASA. So anyway, they were on, and they're like, go out and go see, like, they would have me like, and I'm communicating in mental telepathy in my brain. And they like, go out and go see, because he's underground. He's under direct order, like a lot of intelligence officers are. Okay. It's probably like this around the world. He's under direct order. Okay. In preparations for future combat and protection of this nation, also other nations. Okay. So it's like a whole secondary military unit. Okay. So she kept cutting off his communications when he kept trying to reach people above ground. She kept cutting off the communication. So there is few communication, their communication was going through, but it was intermittent because she kept cutting off the communication. Like she kept purposely severing the communication. So it was all just, what do you see? What's going on? I literally could stand on the ground. Okay, I'd be standing on the ground on the pavement and it would feel like I was surfing. The ground was moving, like the grass, the ground, like everything was moving. So some of these snakes, and this is snakes by the trillion, some of these snakes have bombs in them, which you know. Okay, she's been breeding them since the 60s. Then somehow she got them to attach themselves to cars. And I still don't know how she did that. I still don't know how she did that with the gravitational pull, because all of the cars in Dallas, and it was like that all the way up into almost up through Oklahoma City, almost into Tulsa. The rear of the car, the bumper of the car was like literally like bouncing up and down. Like every car was like bouncing up and down. And like when I would walk on the street, there would be snakes underneath me, following me underneath the street. Every time I would go into Oklahoma, and she messes with my eyesight. She moves my eyes around. So I would have to like hold my eyes real still and focus my eyes real still, because she'd try to jitter my eyes to try to make it look like the ground is moving, like screwing with me. And I'm like literally trying to see, is the ground moving? And everywhere I went, I can feel them. I still feel them today. They're everywhere. They're everywhere. So I can feel them underneath my feet, or I can smell them. So she migrated them. I was on with a bunch of people. A lot of people came on. I was talking to people in California. I was talking to people out east. I was talking to people everywhere. And I was like, go outside. Tell me if you see this happening outside. I'm in Dallas, Texas. Tell me if you see this happening outside. And this literally was like happening everywhere. The walls were moving, the ceilings were moving. It was happening everywhere. So she migrated some of those snakes down into the top part of Mexico. So Mexico has an abajo that she also runs. I told you, it's 100 miles east of Acapulco. It's called Ion Psyche, Ionsake. Okay. So, and I used to have a pretty good connection there, but Jean has severed that too. And everybody I have talked to at Ion Psyche, they were incredibly good, gracious people. I thought that Bob Burns, the CIA, the director of the CIA, was missing, and I was freaking out. And then somebody said he's at Iron Psych, and then Bob Burns came on and told me later. I'm like, were you missing? Because Iron Psych like went out of their way looking for you everywhere, and they didn't see you. And he said, I was missing for a while. So I don't know if she's forcing people to go underground and then they go back out, or I don't know what this situation is. It's not my business. It's not my place. It's not my concern. I'm a provider of the information that I know. And I provide it to intelligence. And they tell me bare minimum back unless I need to know it, because Gene Roberts and our Manson occult are all criminals, and all they will do is spread lies in the community and get people all freaked out and all upset and keep them distracted and keep making their money, running their little trafficking ring, and more terrorism will ensue because she's also committing terrorism and she's trying to racket it. So it's more of me finding out she committed crime and then turning her in for it. And they only provide information back to me if I absolutely need the information, if it's absolutely necessary. I'm an informant. I'm not in the CIA, so why would I need the information? And they're constantly, like I told you, it's the slowest, stupidest car chase ever. Gene Roberts and Manson occult are constantly on in my brain. And when intelligence comes on, they start grilling them like they're little effing kids. They start grilling them for like information, and they're like pretending to be me. And this is in my brain and mental telepathy. And I'm like just listening, and I'm like, could you just arrest these effers, please? Could you just arrest them? But they're just like, they know that they're the perps. And they literally have to tell them to shut up. Just shut up. So anyway, so she's messing around with the snakes down there in the Everglades, which this direct line goes up into West Virginia, which again, Charles Manson, which again, she would hide, trying to connect herself or weave herself into the FBI. So these three lines are important. Okay, very, very important. Okay, so anyway, line B, or drawing B. So I have the same three lines drawn, okay? And what I was trying to do here was, I don't know what these little skinny lines that are dividing New Mexico and Texas and Louisiana, I don't remember drawing that on there. Ignore that. So she could have hacked me and drew it on there, and she's off telling some fancy damn lies, ripping everything off from me. So instantly I see what I need to do is take the top, to start working on these triangles, and take the top of one line, make sure I hit the top of another line, and then go to the middle of the next line, okay, which is in Florida, and what would be over there? Orlando. Remember the terror attack she committed in Orlando? Panic at the Disco? It was called, the name of the nightclub was, I can't remember the name of the nightclub now. She committed the terror attack there. I turned her in for it. I can't even remember the name of the nightclub now. So instantly I see that, and I'm like, this is Gene's doing. So I know that these are going to become triangles. I know it's significant already in drawing B. So then there's in drawing C, I'm going from the top of the line over in Utah, now drawing it directly to the bottom line in Florida and seeing where the intersecting point is in Oklahoma. And again, you've got Oklahoma City. Okay. So then you go to drawing D, and now I'm going to draw my triangle. So now I'm going from the bottom of the left line to the top of the right line. And look where the triangle is in the center point. That would be in the area where the entrance is. That would be down by Durant, Oklahoma. So also what this is, she pre-planned to do this. These maps could be very old and she used them, or she could have created them. Since it's based off of ancient undergrounds, these maps are probably very old and then she built on them over time. But what this is, okay, is an hourglass tipped sideways. You know what the hourglass goes to? The hourglass goes to Days of Our Lives. Remember her planning to do the World Trade Center attack, and she did it all around soap operas on TV by stalking me and my mother when I was little. And then Days of Our Lives, the initials of that is DOOL, okay? So this middle line, okay, remember it goes up into Kansas? Okay. So that's the same thing over here. So that again proves she did the nightclub attack in Orlando, because this goes to Dueling Daltons also, okay? So when I used to live in Oklahoma, when I was raising my kids when they were little, I used to go to a place. Everybody used to love to go there. There was a nightclub there. It was in Coffeyville, Kansas, and it was called the Dalton House. And it's right over the border in Kansas, which is probably a little bit over to the right. I think right above this would be Caney, I think. No, this is in the center of Oklahoma. I don't know what's above this. You would have to go look and see. But that goes to this, okay? Because those two clubs go together. And again, that links back to me when I was a teenager. Okay, when I was a teenager and I went to a teenage nightclub on Mill Avenue in Tempe, and it was called Sergeant Pepper's. So Sergeant Pepper's, Coffeyville, all of that is Charles Manson. All of this is Charles Manson. Gene did all of this. And then again, it goes back even further, back to my dad when I was probably a baby or not even thought of, okay? He used to go to a nightclub there on Mill Avenue. He went to ASU. He's an ASU graduate. He used to go to a nightclub there called Mr. Lucky's. And if I remember right, because I tried to scare her with the nightclub, I was like, you're not going to be stalking me and my family, Gene Roberts. You're not getting away with shit. And I got an old picture of Mr. Lucky's. And I put it up to my eyes because she can see through my eyes. And I was like, what do you think you're doing, Gene? You're not getting away with shit. The Marines know what you're fucking up to. They know that you committed these terror attacks. They know that you're running this racket. But she has still seemed to wildly get away with all of it. So anyway, the Mr. Lucky's, the logo in, I believe it has a little bow tie. It's like a little Jack in the Box guy. So you can tell she's done this, used this since the 60s, because she also wants to tie in using, and you know who she's also been stalking, the Nation of Islam. If you know anything about Charles Manson, Jean is the leader of Charles Manson. Okay, you know the damage her Manson occult has caused the Nation of Islam. You know the damage her occult has caused the Black Panthers. Okay, going through history. All right, so you can tell what she's doing here is she's planning to like con them later on, and she's like pulling them in, and she's referring to their bow ties. Everybody wears bow ties, and like she tries to bring her con to me, and I'm like, because I decoded Alice in Wonderland, and I started calling Jean Roberts and her Manson occult. I started calling Jean Roberts and her Manson sisters Tweedledee and Tweedletwat, and she got pissed off and turned it around and went and white people and said that I was insulting the Nation of Islam, and like white people believed it, and I'm like, who are you trying to fool with that lie? You're talking about your damn dumb knick-knack paddywhack ass versus the Nation of Islam. So like they would come on in my brain and they'd be like, oh my God. And I'd be like, oh my God. Anyway, so you can tell she's like planning to do a little hustle there. More of her stalking as usual. So anyway, so what's important here is these intersecting points. So, and if you also, this line going up through New Mexico is down by where Las Cruces is. Okay, so I decoded a lot around Las Cruces. Okay, so that's proof evidence of her stalking my first husband's side of the family on his dad's side, Mario Sr. So that runs through here. Okay, so Colorado, this is going to run through Denver. Okay, and Denver's always easy to see because if you look at the state of Colorado, part of it's green and part of it's not. And Denver's right at that intersecting point. So anyway, there is probably more to look at through here. And then also point out this line running south into Florida Everglades goes right through Lake Pontchartrain and goes right through Slidell, Louisiana. So it's just south of Bentonville, Arkansas, her other obsession place. She pretends to be everybody's hero when she's the perp. You know everybody from Arkansas. Okay, so, sorry she's controlling my speech because they don't care. They think that all your families are theirs to sell. Probably including the Clintons. Jean Roberts literally does not care. So, anyway, well, the world cares. Jean Roberts won't be getting away with anything. So, that's up in the northwest corner of Arkansas. I don't know Arkansas that well to know what runs through there. But you can tell this is, like, getting the line near this, it works for her. So, if the Clintons went through their history, okay, I bet they find a lot of stuff on these intersecting points. And then this runs up through Tennessee. So Tennessee also, what I don't see on this intersecting point, which I went through the Mammoth Caves in Kentucky, in Bowling Springs, Kentucky. But I think that's over on the left side of the state. But again, that's close enough. So that would be another reference to caves. Okay. And Seal Mammoth Code. I decoded a ton on mammoth, the woolly mammoth tusks. Okay. So, all right. So drawing E. So I think this is me just showing a close-up. Hey, I'm just trying to show you this intersecting point in southern Oklahoma is an entrance, and it's just right on the mark. Then I'm like, okay, let me draw more triangles here. So then, because I knew she was drawing all these triangles, I'm like, let me focus over here and see what she's been doing on the right. So then I draw another hourglass shape, and it's running in through Louisiana and Mississippi. I don't know these areas to know what's going on, but I know it's running through South Carolina, but I know you're going to want to pay attention to whatever's going on in these intersecting points. Well, this goes into, wait, no, that would be down here. I'm like, this would be the highway that takes you into Mississippi. That could be NASA, but no, NASA is further south, but she could be counting NASA as there. So then I go ahead and I complete the triangle on the left, and it's intersecting through Smithtown. And then, of course, New Mexico. And what is New Mexico known for? Roswell, Area 51. And again, it's going through Colorado. So then I'm like, let me see what else this does. So I'm like, what if I move these lines and move them to the up direction? Okay, so if I move them up, it becomes a square, and it becomes a roof, okay, and it becomes an arrow. So it's showing movement up. So again, I don't know like what to pay attention to on these points, but I know that this is real. And then also, you can see the Sparta symbol, even though this is skewed, but it may, if you mirrored this out to another point, no, because this is how it's supposed to be, because it's taking the lowest points. So anyway, which is also a chevron, okay? So, and you know, Chevy, well, there you go, Chevy to the levee. Okay, so Chevy is a big part of this. So anyway, you'll just want to pay attention to all these points and see what's at all these locations, because I can tell it's significant by seeing what the image comes out to be. And then in drawing H, I'm like, I mirror the hourglass that's on the right to the left, okay? And so it goes angle up. And then also something that's important is when I was a kid, and she keeps putting this in my brain, and this is even built alongside Lake Pontchartrain, or Pontchartrain Drive in Slidell. I was like, that is weird. But this is like 9 years ago, and I'm realizing that she's been stalking me my whole life, and she's like, the environment, no matter what environment I'm in, I can see where she has used my entire life from infancy and built up around it. I see my life everywhere. So anyway, when I was little in, I don't know, daycare, those blocks, and you guys remember this for those of you that are my age, the blocks that came out that were plastic, and they were red, yellow, and blue, and then you could clip them open, and it'd be like two open triangles, two open pyramids, and then you could clip them to the other blocks, and you could make like a pyramid necklace out of them. Okay, so she kept putting those in my brain, and there's even a structure built like that on Pontchartrain Drive, which she shoved into my brain, and I'm going, what is she doing this to me for? She did this to me when I was at work one day at Ochsner also. She shoved into my brain a memory of me in daycare and me seeing the plastic cutout of a decoration on the daycare wall when I was in daycare. And Jean was just squealing with delight to someone. And I'm like, you were fucking sick, bitch. And at the same time, I'm like decoding all kinds of crime that she's committing. And she's just squealing with delight. Christina remembers all the way back to infancy. She was like all excited. She kept trying to like shove stuff in my brain to see how early my memories would be. So my memories would go back earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier and earlier. So anyway, those blocks become important because those become these triangles. And I'm supposed to realize this looking back in this AIW trip. So you can take this apart and look and see what's at the locations, but this is definitely mirrored. And also this is a Mason's symbol, which is 20. If you put two X's next to each other. So this is also a Mason symbol. So then I'm looking at this more, and then I'm realizing what this is. Okay, so you've got the M, okay, for Scorpio. You've also got the M for 1776, okay. But what you also see is a flood down. So you see going up, an influx going up, and you see a flood coming down. So, I know there's supposed to be flooding that goes up, but you can see flooding going down. So this is probably signs of the future hidden in this diagram somehow. And also her envelope, okay, you know what she uses? She uses her body parts as a bank. I decoded her entire terror plot, her legs, everything. And her body part, she uses as a bank. And I'm like, you are just freaking sick. You're freaking sick. So I can see that in here too. And if you move these, you have to think of this all as in moving parts, like twisting and moving them all around and what you can come up with. But in the future, Canada, I think you already know, well, you would know this, but I mean, this is what I was told. Canada is going to thaw. She's purposely going to thaw Canada. Because a lot of Canada is uninhabitable. It's all ice and snow. And she's purposely going to thaw it, which would bring this water coming down, okay? Just like I told you, she plans on Maine breaking off into the water. And I'm like, well, this is real. This is true. This is fact. I've decoded the heck out of it. There's no way to deny that it's going to happen. But at the point at when it happens, all the natural disasters that are not natural that she plans to do, if we're all dead by then what does it matter? So, I mean, let's tackle immediate terrorism and then tackle long-term terrorism, and I'll just turn in Jean for all of it, and then the world leaders can take over and arrest Jean. And if Jean's not being arrested, then that means nothing has changed, because no one would let that psychopath go free. Okay, so anyway, so this is mirrored over here. So then if you go to drawing J, I mirror the next part, and it's an arrowhead. And my first dog's name was Arrow. I lived in Globe. I lived in Tucson and in Globe. This is also a gigantic pyramid, which is completely astounding. It takes up most of Arizona. It takes up all of Utah and part of New Mexico, which again goes to everything I've decoded about the Grand Canyon. Everything I've decoded biblically, which means there could be all kinds of missing everything, and it also explains Auckland. So anyway, this is like completely fascinating. So that's these drawings, and the eye drawing was just showing starting the mirror part of it, and then showing an up close of it. I can't remember what I was going to say about that now. I can't remember that with that drawing. Okay, so then I'm like freaking out. Okay, so then I realize this is connected to the Titanic. Another thing I wanted to point out to you, the center line is also near the New Meridian split. So this is connected to the Titanic. And then I go look on my back porch, because she pre-planned for me to live here. And like I said, she uses AI to control the environment everywhere. So it doesn't mean that the people that built this house that way on purpose. Okay, it doesn't mean that everybody who brought furniture in this house did that on purpose. She uses artificial intelligence on people. She's been doing it for 60 years. Okay, so I go and look in my backyard, and what do I see? Not only is she bragging about robbing the cartel, not only is she bragging about doing the World Trade Center attack, not only is she bragging about doing the Oklahoma City bombing, not only is she bragging about getting away with all of this, the abajos, everything, you can see it all in my backyard. She's I literally see those 3 posts as my back patio. You can see it right on my website. And then our patio table is glass. And then you see the blue chairs. So this is all representative of the table and the chairs. This is representative of the Titanic. And then the blue chairs I'm supposed to flip out over, because I'm supposed to be thinking about the Blue Swing, 1976. And then, okay, so I'm like running out of breath here, so I want to continue going on, and I want to do the math with you. There's math involved in this. So I'm going to end this recording, and I'm going to start another recording, and I'm going to go through the math with this with you.